Hello everyone, welcome to this installment of Tudor Wine Time. I'm so grateful that you could join me today, and I do hope you have something nice to raise a glass with because we do have a lot to celebrate today. So I hope that you're all well. I hope you've been having a wonderful month, and I'm sorry that there was no Tudor Wine Time in June. Time just got away from me. But I have a lot to share with you today and a lot of exciting and good news. So thank you so much for being here with me. So I suppose I might start with some really exciting news, which is that today is the 4th anniversary of my podcast, Talking Tudors. So finally, I have something to actually celebrate and raise a glass to. So please join me. So 4 years ago today, I published the first episode of my podcast, Talking Tudors. I actually can't believe it's been 4 years. I remember when I published the first episode, I wondered if I was going to be talking to myself or if there would be actual listeners. So I'm so incredibly thrilled to say that after 4 years, the listenership is growing. It has international listenership, which is so wonderful. I have published to date 166 free episodes, plus quite a bit of patron-only content, but 166 free episodes. And I've received lots of lovely feedback and had the real privilege of speaking with some exceptional people. So I feel very grateful for that. And the podcast has been downloaded about 1.5 million times. So it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. So I thank you so much for everyone who tunes into the podcast. It did start off as a fortnightly podcast. It is now much more like a weekly podcast, but I haven't changed the introduction yet. I'm not quite ready to take that step to commit to having to do weekly every month. But thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for leaving really lovely comments on my social media accounts, on my Patreon. Thank you for sharing the podcast on social media. That is so helpful. Thank you for the amazing reviews that people leave. That is also very helpful and helps other people find the podcast. So I'm so appreciative of that. So yes, it's an exciting time and I'm really looking forward to the next 4 years of Talking Tudors. I have so much in the pipeline, so much that I'm planning and working on. So it's very exciting. And while we're on the topic of the podcast, next month starts a very special series on the podcast called All Things 16th Century Women. So this is kind of like an online festival, and it will be hosted on my podcast, on my YouTube channel, and also I will have an excellent guest article that I'll be publishing on my website on the Tudor Trail. So there'll be 2 months where I'll be sticking to this theme of 16th century women, not just Tudor women, so 16th century women as a whole, and I've got fantastic guests coming on the show. I have incredible video lectures from some amazing historians. So if you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube, well, please hit subscribe because you're on here right now. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do that. And then my website, if you've got a moment, check it out, www.onthetudortrail.com. So that's all exciting news about the podcast. Actually, I should just mention that if you haven't listened to this month's episodes, I've got 4 that I published this month already. So there's one, I had the pleasure of talking to Wanda Whiteley. She's a novelist, about her debut book, The Gold Hanger Dog. That was really interesting and she was so lovely to chat to. I also had the great pleasure of chatting to Dr. Joanne Paul about her wonderful book, The House of Dudley, which I'll show you in a moment, which is all about the Dudley family. It's really a look at the Tudor period through this family. So that was a fantastic conversation. I also had the great pleasure of chatting to Claire Jackson about her book, Devil Land, England Under Siege, 1588 to 1688. And in fact, Claire's incredible book just won the Wolfson History Prize. So that was a great conversation. And today, because it's the anniversary, I just published a special anniversary episode with Dr. Owen Emerson, my buddy, Dr. Owen Emerson, who's come onto the podcast many times. I'm sure many of you are quite familiar with him. He's just fabulous, brilliant. we had an incredibly fun time recording that particular podcast episode. So if you're wondering what to do over the weekend, please pour yourself a glass of bubbly, sit down and have a listen to Owen and I chatting. It did get quite raucous at some point, but it was all good fun. So, and thank you for people that have already left really lovely comments on that podcast. I very much appreciate it. So that's the podcast news. The other very, 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 very exciting thing is that on Monday, so last Monday, I was able to reveal the cover of my forthcoming book, The Final Year of Amberlynn. I'll pop it in right now. So this is a non-fiction book which focuses on the last 18 months of Anne's life. And I spent 3 years working on this, but it's really the culmination of all the work I've done with Anne and Anne's story. So it's incredibly exciting because I finished it last December, and this is the first time I've shared the cover publicly, and the response was just outstanding. So thank you everyone from the bottom of my heart for the tweets, the shares to the stories, the comments, the likes, the loves. It was just, I was really overwhelmed in a good way. It was fantastic to see that the designer did a really great job on the cover because everyone was really excited about it. The other thing I shared was that it's now available for pre-order. So this is really exciting. It will be published on the 30th of November in the UK and in the US early next year. However, my US friends, you do not need to wait. Neither does anyone else around the world, because you can pre-order your copy from the Book Depository, which actually offers free worldwide shipping. I use them all the time to get books sent to me here in Oz, so I don't like to wait for Australian releases or anything like that. So please, if you don't want to wait, you're in the US, you don't want to wait, you can order your copy. It's free shipping to your door as soon as the book's published. If you're in the UK, there's Amazon, there's all sorts of online retailers. I won't go through them all. I will link some below, so have a look. Australia, you've got options too. Booktopia, for example, is one, but you can also pre-order from the Book Depository. But anyway, I will put some links below. But it's so exciting to have been able to finally share the cover, finally share the pre-order link, and now it's time to wait patiently. All of us, we all have to wait. I don't have a copy either until late November. And, I think it's the perfect Christmas present. So pop it on your Christmas wish list. And there are already some wonderful endorsements that I've been given from Dr. Owen Emerson, from Gareth Russell, the amazing historian, from Sandra Vasoli, from Kate McCaffrey, from Heber Castle. And I think I've got a few more coming to share with you soon. So I'm just joyous that they found the book really useful and a real contribution to Tudor history. So I'm totally moved by that. So thank you. So if you want to celebrate 4 years of talking Tudors with me, perhaps you'll pre-order your copy today. And if any of my patrons are on here, I recently switched from Podbean patron to Patreon. So you've heard some of this information because I can't help it. I share everything with them first. So if you want to celebrate, you want to support my work, if you want to join the patron family, head over to patreon.com/talkingtudors. For the next couple of days, there's a special offer on which you might like. I won't say any more, but go and have a look and see if you like that. I do tend to share quite a lot now. The Patreon platform I've found really good, and all the feedback I've received from people that have switched from the Podbean where I was previously to Patreon are saying that this is so much better. I have the ability to connect with them so much more through posts, through videos, through lives. So yes, please check it out. That would be absolutely amazing. Books. Shall we look at a few books? I don't have that many for you this month, but I still have some really good ones. So the first one, Gloriana, Elizabeth I and the Art of Queenship by Siobhan Clarke and Linda Collins. This is really a beautiful, beautiful book. It's got some wonderful endorsements on the back by Alison Wee and Tracy Borman. It basically looks at the period through artwork. So, for example, there's one I know we'll all recognize, but it has beautiful, beautiful color images. Here we go. Here's two amazing ones as well. And then a series of essays, basically, is I suppose the way you could describe it. So let me have a look. So for example, Elizabeth I and the English Renaissance, family and survival, the early years. So themes, really. It uses these artworks, but then it sort of groups everything into themes. So again, I love these kinds of books because they're not overwhelming. So you can, before bed, you decide, oh, well, I'm just going to read one of the essays or one of the sections, and that's okay. And you've learned something. So I'm so happy with that. Thank you so much. That was sent to me. So I really appreciate that. It's a beautiful book. I devoured it in like, a few nights. I couldn't help myself. The next one that I already mentioned is The House of Dudley by Dr. Joanne Paulsall. It says, A New History of Tudor England. Look at this beauty. This is just stunning. The cover is absolutely stunning. So I'll read you a little bit from the back. It says, in the early morning hours of the 21st of August, 1553, crowds of Londoners made their way to the Tower of London. They were there to witness a rare sight. And it goes on to, I don't want to give any spoilers in case you don't know what that rare sight was. So it's just brilliant. It's written beautifully. It also has really fantastic color images too. And at the back, if I can find it, it has a list of suggested readings. Okay, so not only ones that Joanne used, but things that she recommends people read if they want to learn more about the period. So if you want to know more about this, I suggest you check out the podcast episode that I did with Joanne just recently, because she talks all about this book, all about the Dudley family. We looked at the 3 generations that she focuses on. We looked at the personalities that she focuses on in each of those 3 generations. And it was just a fascinating discussion. So you can get your copy and learn all about the Dudley family. I think we need a little sip. Okay, next book. I was so excited to buy this. I pre-ordered this as soon as Estelle said, oh, my book's available for pre-order. I went off and pre-ordered. So this is Blood, Fire and Gold, the story of Elizabeth I and Catherine de Medici, 2 great queens, 1 great rivalry, by Dr. Estelle Baronque. Again, incredible endorsements on the back from Tracy Borman, Kate Moss, Jessie Childs and Susanna Lipscomb. It's a fantastic book. I know how hard Estelle worked on this. I also happen to have recorded a podcast episode with Estelle. If you've listened to my chats with Estelle before, you know she is fascinating. She's so entertaining, and her passion is literally, it comes out of the, well, if you're watching, out of the video, if you're listening, it just comes straight into your ears. She's so passionate, she's so lovely, and she's always willing to share her expertise. So Blood, Fire and Gold might be one to add to the list. Now, I've got a couple more books I want to mention, but I don't have physical copies, but that's okay. So the first one, a lovely friend, delightful friend of mine that you might know, Adrienne Dillard. She has a book called, make sure I get the title right, Keeper of the Queen's Jewels. It's a novel, and it's about Jane Seymour and Marjorie Horseman, I think, are the sort of main characters. I haven't started this book yet, but I have read all of Adrienne's other work, and it is brilliant. In fact, I always do this, don't I? I should pull the books off the shelves first. Adrienne's book about Lady Rochford and George Boleyn. Well, I think I blame her for the terrible crush I have on George Boleyn, basically. Thanks, Adrienne. Lucky he lived 500 years ago, doesn't bother my husband whatsoever. So, Keeper of the Queen's Jewels, published by Grey London Press, is now available for pre-order. So what I would suggest you do is head over to Adrienne's website. If you just Google search Adrienne Dillard, you will find it. Again, that book has incredible endorsements. I also know how hard Adrienne worked on that one. So I've just recently received an advance copy. So I cannot wait to dive in. I know that everything she writes is just amazing. And I have invited her, this is something I haven't told my patrons yet. I have invited her to be the guest on next month's live. So this month I have the wonderful Dr. Elizabeth Norton. So every month, if you don't know, every month I do a live Zoom with, people can join. All my patrons are invited to join, and we chat live. And then I put the recording onto my Patreon so that anyone that missed it can listen. So this end of this month, I'm chatting to Dr. Elizabeth Norton about her book, which is to do with Elizabeth Tudor and the Thomas Seymour saga, which is on everyone's kind of mind at the moment because a lot of us are, of course, watching Becoming Elizabeth, which make a note and I'll ask you about that in a moment. So I have her on at the end of this month, Dr. Norton on at the end of this month to discuss her research and to see if we can get to the bottom of this, because there's a lot of kind of information and misinformation flying around about this particular episode. So I am so keen to talk to someone that actually delved into the sources and really had a close look at this. And next month, so August, end of August, I'll be chatting to Adrienne about Jane Seymour and Marjorie Horseman. Now, I know people often say, oh, you're an Amberlynn enthusiast. You're not interested in Jane Seymour. Well, I'm trying to be more interested in Jane Seymour. How's that? Is that good? So I'm really excited about that. So if you want to actually take part in those lives, you do need to be part of the Patreon family, the Talking Tudors Patreon family. I'll leave a link down there. So the other book, again, I don't have it here, I'm sorry, but another dear friend of mine, Sandra Vasoli, which some of you may know, I showed her book on the last one, the book about Anne Boleyn's alleged letter from the Tower. That's Sandra Vasoli. She's an expert on the Tower letter, but she's also an expert on Henry's love letters to Anne. She's the only person I know that's been to the Vatican and seen the love letters twice. How cool is that? So Sandra, I've also had on the podcast, and I'll ask her to come back and talk to us more about this because she's working on a very special project. However, her book that I'm currently reading, very privileged to have an advanced copy, is called Pursuing a Masterpiece. It is also a novel. You can find more information on Sandra's website, Sandra Vasoli, just Google that. Not out for pre-order yet, but not far off. And the same as Adrienne's book is published by Grey London Press, so will Sandy's be. So this has just got me completely captivated, this novel. It's beautifully written. It's sort of a part adventure, part historical mystery. It has a very strong Tudor element to it. I'm not going to ruin it, but it has a very strong Tudor element. And it's a novel that moves through the ages. So I just find myself absolutely marveling at how Sandy was able to research all these different periods. I know from my own experience, researching one period that I'm really familiar with is difficult enough. So I take my hat off to Sandy. She's done an incredible job of researching and moving through the ages. It's fantastic, everyone. So I don't know, go and follow Sandy on socials, sign up to her newsletter on her website. It's brilliant. On that note, okay, so they were pretty much the main things I wanted to talk to you about this month. Oh no, I'm lying. There's one. Oh, silly me. There's one more thing. Excuse me. I know I've already kept you for almost 20 minutes. I'm such a chatterbox. The Tudor Film Club. I'm so excited about this. Okay, so this is very new. This is what I've said. This has been such an exciting week. I not only my book reveal, the pre-order link, the 4 years of talking Tudors, but I started a Tudor Film Club. So this again is on Patreon, and I'm so thrilled to say that each month Dr. Owen Emerson will be joining me to review a Tudor period film or documentary. And we have decided to start with Lady Jane. So that's the 1986 film that stars Helena Bonham Carter as Lady Jane Grey. So yes, it's an oldie, but it's going to be fun too. I haven't watched it in a long time, have you? So we're going to watch that film. Actually, I was hoping maybe to watch it this evening or this weekend. And then Owen and I will get together and we're going to review it. We're going to say, do we think it's, Tudorific or is it a Tudor flop? What rating do we give it? And between now and then, that video will be published on the 15th of August. Between now and then, there'll be discussions on Patreon about this. There'll be polls on Patreon. So I invite everyone to come and join us for the Tudor Film Club and, join in the fun. It's watching Tudor films. Like, what could be better than that? So starting with Lady Jane, but I have so many that I've got, on my list that I would love to review. And then, we'll have that available so when people are wondering what to watch, they can have a look and see which ones we rated highly and which ones we didn't. So we'll be looking at things like where were they filmed, costume, characters, you know, the whole, is it a believable narrative? Has it taken too many liberties with history that, you know, annoy us? To be honest, I'm not one of these people that gets totally annoyed about every little thing, but there are certain things I think that need to be respected. So it's going to be interesting to see the difference between Owen's interpretation and his review and my interpretation and my review. So that's the Tudor Film Club, again on Patreon. Now, we're coming to the end, my friends. I just want to again thank you so much for all the support, all the kindness, all the beautiful comments. I just love reading them from people all over the world. You know, it's been 4 years of hard work because I wrote the book at the same time as, you know, getting this podcast off the ground, and it's, I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I should also mention that enrollments for 365 Days with Amberlynn, the 12-month-long immersive, unique experience, are still open. Enrollments are still open. You can find all the information on my website. I'll link it below. I've got some incredible podcast episodes coming up. I have 2 more for you this month. Oh my goodness, if I get to publish them all, that's 6 this month. What happened to my fortnightly podcast? So I have one with Kenneth McGuinness coming up, which is all about Elizabeth I's relationship with Ivan the Terrible. Totally, you know, this is new territory for me. So I love this because this is where I get to learn a lot. And I hope you will as well. He's so lovely, as all Scottish people are. I also recorded a fantastic episode with Professor Suzanne Doran just the other night, which will be coming out very soon. We focused on Elizabeth I and her circle. So, and that's the title of a book by Susan Doran, which some of you probably have read. So basically we looked at her relationships with her ladies-in-waiting, with her privy councillors, with her relatives, you know, how did she treat her Boleyn relatives, all this kind of information. And Susan tells us the insights that she gained from this, you know, I don't know how many years, she said decades of research into Elizabeth and Elizabeth's court. So she is an absolute expert. Not only that, she's just incredibly lovely to chat to. And I know you'll hear that straight away. One of these people that makes you feel comfortable immediately and that you just, you know, it's like you've been buddies forever. So that is coming up still in July, if I can get my act together, because I don't only research the podcasts and host them, I also produce them, edit them, publish them, market them. This is a one-woman show at the moment, everyone. So thank you again so much for your support. I think I'm going to bring this to a close now. Again, there's so much going on, so please keep an eye on my socials. Celebrate with me, raise a glass of wine today, tag me on social media, listen to the anniversary episode. I love hearing from people. And if you feel that you want to do a little bit more, join us on Patreon. There's so much in the pipeline there. All right, well, I think before we go, one more sip. Thank you again, everyone. I really love to hear comments, so please leave me a comment. How are things in your neck of the woods? What are you reading at the moment? Are you interested in the Tudor Film Club? Do you want to watch some films? Anything, just tell me how your day's going. That's what I'd really like to hear. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next month for Tudor Wine Time.